Hello, everyone.
Hello. Welcome.
So for this podcast, we're doing something different. We felt, Mark and I, that it was important to say this before you press in play to this episode. So today we interview someone close to us that is a friend of Mark that is a narcissist, and he overcame that. He did heal, he did the work, and he went through his journey of realizing where he was and why he was doing certain things, and then decided to change. And we decided to record this podcast to show you, not asking you to understand, to tolerate or try to save the people in your life that abused you, because what did happen to you is not a justification. Same for us. We don't justify the people that abused us, but this episode is for you to healing, to really see behind the scene why narcissistic people does what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a good friend of mine, Keith, from the States. He's a retired military veteran, and we connected in Evan Britton's community in his men's group. And yeah, something I want to share with this is just observe yourself in this call. If you've experienced narcissistic abuse, which I'm sure a lot of people listening to our podcast has, if you've experienced that, just be willing to observe what comes up for you. Really, like explore this with an open heart and open lens, because Keith is a beautiful soul and got a lot of love for Keith. So he's got a lot of value and wisdom to share with his personal experience, how he overcame narcissism and how he shined a light on his daughters and his wife, right, to help them as well. So this is a really powerful podcast. You know, give yourself the space to really go deep with this. Map out an hour and a half of your time if you can listen to it. Sit down and drop deep with it and give it your full presence, because there's so much value for you if you're willing to really explore what comes up for yourself.
And they will give you actually the key to realizing that it was never you. It was never you. Never your fault, that the reason that things happen to you, it was never about you. And this is actually, if you're still stuck in the dynamic of it was my fault or blaming yourself, this will help you to see that it was never you.
Yeah, you'll see in the podcast, you'll see us like resonating and feeling a lot of deep insights within our own personal experience. So thank you so much. Without any further ado, here's the podcast with Keith.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reclaim Podcast. Here it's Sarah and Mark, your hosts. And today we have a guest in our podcast. And we are very actually excited for this episode, because we know that it's going to be incredible to see a different perspective from someone that experienced that. And it's going to bring you like a lot of healing as well, and understanding about what did happen to your trauma, to during your abuse and things like that. So we are very excited to have this guest.
Absolutely. This is my boy Keith.
Welcome, Keith.
From America, from Evan Britton's men's group. Welcome, Keith.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I am so excited for this. I'm actually very, very nervous because I'm afraid of coming off looking like a complete ass, because I'm going to be completely open and completely raw about who I was. But I am also so excited because I think it's something that's definitely needed.
Yeah.
And I love that. And, you know, I was very excited for this podcast, Kit, because I think it's important to talk about this also from the perspective of someone that experienced narcissistic tendency or has been doing that. And I think it's important for the healing journey, because the person that experienced the abuse has a lot of issue with thinking it's them. You know, this is me, I did this, da 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 da. So having the perspective of someone else that did the work, which is, I believe as well, that it's possible. It's possible. You just have to choose that. You just have to choose to do the work. In the same way, also the person that has been abused have to do the work to rebuild their identity and heal those parts of themselves that has been destroyed during the abuse, right? So it's both sides need to do the work. And unfortunately, we see a lot of narcissists that don't do the work, okay? They don't choose to go to therapy, do the work, but you did it and you came out of this. And I think that's very powerful to show to the internet that there is also the bright side of this, not just the dark side. And there are people that choose, and I'm sure like you, there are so many, because I done some I look online, there are some people that talks about this a lot. Narcissists, they actually help other people to do the work. So it is possible, and it's beautiful to see that you have been going through this journey. And Mark and I are very excited to share this with our community, and thank you for being opening. And I understand how, you know, you can be nervous.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to ask you something. So this is going to go in the way that it's going to go. So there is no script and no plan. And I have one question for you, like, that I feel like that can be the way that we start. Like, how do you feel, for example, when you see, you know, a lot of content talking about narcissists, like what they have done to other people and things like that? Like, how do you feel when those things comes up for you, when you see those content, or you are aware, because I guess you are aware now because you have done the work and you have been healing yourself. Like, how do you feel? What comes up for you? Because you are on the other side.
Yeah, I love that question. And me and Mark were kind of talking about this a little bit, you know, going back and forth on the messages.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me is a lot of shame and a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
And then there's also some, I think, confusion, some doubting myself. You know, like there was one guy I always saw on TikTok. I don't see him much anymore because I try to stay away from that side of TikTok. He was one of those creators that, you know, would show somebody doing something horrible and then, you know, hey, let's find this person, let's turn them in, you know, almost like a Tizzy Ent. I don't know if you know him. He does like a lot of videos like that, you know. I mean, somebody being racist, somebody, you know, whatever it is. But this one guy, I guess, was an admitted narcissist. And a lot of the comments that come up for him, because I'd always look at the comments, were, you know, once a narcissist, always a narcissist. You know, so then I start to get confused. Like, if I ever use the term I or talk about like my story, is that me being a narcissist again? So there's a sort of fear, shame, and guilt that's associated with it when I do see content like that.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, because, you know, like, something that I know through my study and my experience, nobody born, and I think this is good for the people that are going to listen to this, nobody born narcissist, okay? It's a trauma response. So, and that's also like God, you know, I believe in God. God create everyone in the same way. So we don't born like that. It's just something that happened after certain kind of trauma that you have as a child. So you learn to survive and you go into having those tendencies. And, you know, I don't know which age you started to notice that, but we noticed as well, Mark and I, in our own experience, that around 7 years old, you can start to see already the first sign of the narcissistic personality coming in. So in your own journey, for example, like, how did you realize that you were doing that? Like, how has been for you? What is your story? Like, how did you realize that in your own journey?
All right. So let's
go
we're gonna
deep.
start covering.
Going deep.
Go deep as you want to go. Let's go.
We're gonna cover 50 years right now.
Wow.
Wow.
So I had a very good family growing up. You know, my parents are still together today. We're all very close. I'm very close with my brother. But I grew up in a very strict Baptist church, almost cultish, you know, where, like, do you ever see the people like on the street corners that are screaming at people walking by, you're going to go to hell if you don't get saved, if you don't accept Christ? Like, that was me.
Oh, wow.
You know, so when I was, I mean, my earliest memory, you know, going to church, I don't even know how old I was, but as soon as I could go, I was going. You know, whether that was like 2 years, whatever, like the first like Sunday school class, like I was in there. And the church that I went to always taught this. There's one phrase that for some reason it keeps going through my head, is that we're born with a blood disease. And the blood disease is sin. So because I am who I am, just being born, I deserve to burn for all of eternity and suffer in torment for all of eternity just because I am me.
Yeah.
And then what the church would also do is they would, I mean, even I remember sitting in services where the preacher was talking about how your children are always seeking to do wrong. So you got to watch them. You have to, you always got to be on guard because your kids are looking to do wrong and you need to stop them so that they don't upset God, whatever the reason being. So they would create a division between parents and the family.
Yeah.
And like and I'm so thankful, Sarah, that you had said it's a trauma response. Because everything that I have learned, like through my own journey, is that you're exactly right. I mean, because when we go into fight or flight, when we're in that trauma response, in that survival mode, you know, our brains are designed to focus on self. Like if I'm, for some reason, I live in Newington, Connecticut, right? It's not really wilderness, you know, I'm in the suburbs, but for some reason, there's been like 5 or 6 sightings of bears around my area. In fact, my daughter pulled up at her house. She lives probably about 10 minutes from me. And if she pulled up 30 seconds earlier, she would have gotten out of her car and a black bear would have came out from behind her house. So she was sitting in her car and this black bear just walked right by the driver's side door. She could have reached out and touched it if the window was down.
Wow.
You know, so if I'm running from a bear, I can't stop and think like, you know, did I upset Mark? Or did I did I turn the stove off? Like I am only thinking of myself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So as I grew, that kind of became my mindset, self. Everything was about self. You know, and it also drove me to seek out comfort zones, you know. And so I had my little hub, you know, like my little area of comfort. And then when I joined the military and having, you know, experiences in the military that added to that trauma, that's when it like doubled, you know. So I remember like growing up, like I always had a horrible temper. But it was few and far between when I would lose it. Then when I got back, we were part of the first American troops into Bosnia. And when I got back from that deployment, so I didn't go through anything what the men and women today have gone through or anything, but when we got back from that deployment, the smallest thing would set me off where I would be in a rage. And I remember there was one time there was like sheet music from The Little Mermaid that was on our counter at home. My kids were, I don't know, maybe 9 and 10 years old at the time, my 2 little girls. And so I asked them, like, you know, both, like, is this your sheet music? And they were like, no, you know, it was no big deal. Like, it was just like, let's put it away. Let's get it cleaned up before, you know, mom comes home from work, whatever. And because they both said no, it was that loss of control, you know, that feeling of not having control over a situation, because that's what that fear is all about, is control. You know, and because I was always in that survival mode, I had to constantly control every situation, every moment of every day, you know, which is just freaking exhausting.
It is exhausting. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So I lost it on my kids, you know. I even called my wife at work, asked her if it was hers, and then while she was on the phone, I mean, screaming in this rage about elves coming in and printing off this sheet music and putting it on the counter, and who knows whose it is. Somebody broke into the house, you know, accusing everybody of lying.
Wow.
Instead of looking at the reality of it as, who the hell cares? It's just a piece of paper on the counter. Like, if it's nobody's, just throw it out. You know, but for me, it was that loss of control. It was that unknown that drove the rage, you know, drove me to focus on myself, not to focus on the fear of my children, the fear of my wife, who was listening to this whole thing, you know, while she was at work.
Wow.
Well, thank you for sharing. And this is really powerful, because I know that both, like, the person that has narcissistic tendency and things like that, and the person that has been, you know, in the middle of it, they both in survival, okay, in different ways with different response, but they are both in survival. And that's important to understand. And of course, that, you know, for who is listening, that doesn't justify what you have been going through. If you have been in an abusive relationship, that's not a justification or anything like that. But I think can help someone to heal. For example, for myself, listening to you right now, it's very healing for myself, just for my own journey, because I've been in narcissistic abusive relationships since I was a little kid, and I experienced different kind of abuse, also sexual abuse. And for me, listening to your story right now, that's why I was very excited for today. It's very healing because I can get to understand, and also I can see like why, you know, the narcissist does certain things and has nothing to do with me. And that can help so many listeners to actually say, okay, it's not me. It never was me. Now I can move on and doing the process of processing what did happen to me and let it go, because there is a phase in the healing journey of a narcissistic abuse where there is a phase where you're still very locked in and have the trauma bond with the person that abused you. And that is a phase that is very, very hard, because you have to break that trauma bond and actually rebuild a new identity that actually has been destroyed by the abuser. So that's when the healing get difficult. And I feel that this is it. This can be very helpful, because you realizing that it was never you. It was never you, and from there you can take the next step. So that's why I was very excited. And I have one more question with you, and then I know Marika has some question too. When it was your breakthrough point, where you arrived, like something happened in your life and you said, enough, I'm gonna take like some help, I'm gonna do the work, and I'm gonna change this about myself. Because Kit, so many narcissists doesn't do it. You know, they don't do it. They don't take action. They don't look into themselves. They keep hurting others and never do anything about themselves. And it's never about them, and it's always about other people. Other people does things to them. You know, they don't do anything. And that's why I'm very curious to know your journey, because has been a moment for you where you say, enough, I'm gonna do something about this. And I would like to know how that moment changed everything for you and how you got to where you are now today.
To put it as bluntly as possible, it was because my wife kicked my fucking ass.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had yeah, okay. All right. All right.
Let's go.
I love this. I love this. I mean, I almost sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the
Emotions.
Yeah. It's that shame and guilt.
Yeah.
But even this is good, you know, because this is a reminder, you know, of who I was, you know, and it's also a joyful thing because it's who I no longer am.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, the identity, and that's why I love that little phrase, I am, you know, because we can fill the object of that sentence with anything, you know. So when we're in survival mode, when we're in that trauma response, you know, our brain is designed to work to bring us towards pleasure and away from pain. And when I was in the worst of the narcissism, pleasure was, I'm right. I'm the victim here.
Yeah. Okay.
And pain was accepting that I'm doing something wrong. Now, like in that moment, it's funny because I love like kind of watching as my head does stuff, because I don't remember if I said this. So like, even that survival mode, like being a little nervous, like being in it and forgetting, you know, wait, like short-term memory. Did I say this? But like when I was flipping out on my kids and all the other times I was in there losing my mind, it felt like the real me was trapped in the back of my head, locked in this little prison. I was screaming, let me out, stop. But I just couldn't. I was blacked out, you can almost say like something else was in control of me. It was
Yeah.
my actions. It was my, I was in control, but it was that rage, it was that survival that was in control, not my love
Understand.
for my kids, love for my wife. And so, when I got back from the military, I went right back to church, and what they taught was if you have depression, if you have anxiety, anything, then there's something wrong between you and God. That's why you have it.
Mm,
That's the only reason why you have it, not because of trauma or anything like that, but because, and they would even say like a secret sin. I think David used the term once in Psalms, like if there's any like sins that I don't know about, like please forgive me for those. So they were taught that I was taught about a secret sin that I might
Yeah.
have
mm,
in me and God,
yeah.
which I'm like, well, can't he just tell me what it is? I mean, if
Yeah.
he's my father, can't he just tell me what it is? They're like, no, 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 no. You got to figure it out for yourself. And I'm just kind of like, what a jerk, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know at least.
Yeah.
So I blamed Sandy, my wife, for everything. Absolutely everything. It was her fault. She just was not the correct type of wife. She was not meeting my needs, even though she would race home from work. So that even though because I would work second shift, she would work first. She would race home from work to make me a dinner for when I went to work because I was too lazy to learn how to cook. So I just demanded that she get home on time to make me dinner before I
Mm,
go to work while I sit on my ass playing video games the whole day
Yeah.
yeah.
and then if anything happened at work,
Yeah.
again, I'm the victim here.
Mm,
She's not there to make my dinner. What a horrible, horrible wife.
Mm.
yeah.
And after, let's see, I got home because we lived in Italy when I was in the military, and I got home in
Oh,
1999.
okay.
Yeah, I think May of 99. And then I'm not even remember the day or the date. I don't know what year it was. Actually, you know what? Hold on. It's on my arm.
Whereabouts in Italy?
It played a little town called Vicenza, about 45 minutes
Ah,
from west of Venice.
yeah.
Um, like we spent so many weekends like just chilling out in Venice. Like it was like so cool. But yeah, it's actually my PTSD tattoo tree, and I
Oh
have
yeah.
the dates of joy to focus on. And
Mm,
two 2007. So let's see, 2004. I think
okay.
I remember I came home from work. I had been having an affair for a few years.
Okay.
Um, and because I was
Mm,
not the smartest person in the world, I got caught constantly. My wife is a genius. Like this is before like, you had the phone numbers that pop up on your phone with a name, right? So I forgot what they call those things. But
mm,
you could buy a box, that would tell you the number who's calling.
Okay.
And
yeah.
she bought one of those boxes without me knowing and put it in a phone jack that was like upstairs in this apartment we were living in a room that I'd never went into. It was just sort of a storage place. And she caught me. Like, I mean, she had the records of the phone calls.
Yeah.
And within 5 minutes of me losing my mind, I had her apologizing to me.
Wow.
Wow.
So like you had said, like you're both in survival mode in different
Yeah.
ways. And it almost seems like, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost like there's one dominant, and I don't want to say like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say submissive, but like one that's like aggressive, and then
Yeah.
one that's a little bit more, I don't even know the word to use because I don't want it to sound less than, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a timidness, it's a freeze response
It's a
almost.
freeze response. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember this sticks in my mind where my wife looked at me and she just stopped talking and started crying and she said, "Can you bring me to the hospital?" And I asked her, I was like, "Well, what's going on?" She said, "I think I'm going insane." That's
Wow.
how much damage I was doing to her.
Wow.
I feel that in my
So,
body.
in about 2004, I came home from work and it was midnight, so I got home about like 12:30. Um, I went into our bedroom. I was getting my towel, my clothes so I can shower, and relax a little bit and then go to bed. And I remember she sat up in bed and she looked at me and said, "I want a divorce."
Mm.
And I was like, okay, all my prayers have been answered because remember, she's the problem,
Yeah.
but then there was this little part of me that was like, oh boy, what, what did I do? Like all of this, there's something broke inside of me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even though I was like, my head was telling me this is the answer to all my problems. Like my heart was telling me you're in more trouble than you understand. So we separated. I got my own apartment. She unfortunately went into a tailspin, which is, I'm sure, absolutely normal, because like you said, like coming out through that, as somebody, as the, person who's being abused, she had all this trauma built up that she could not express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She could not let out because she had to toe the line, and she never knew if what she was going to do was going to set me off or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were separated for 2 years, and I was still in the narcissism. Like I was keeping track of every second my kids were with me, were with her. Every time the kids were supposed to be with her, but then she was going to go out with her friends. So she called me up and say, "Hey, can you watch the girls? Can you take the girls for tonight?" All that stuff, and it's funny too, just as I'm saying this, I'm talking about me and her, but the girls are almost like an afterthought. Like they're just like, where are they going to go? So
Yeah.
that's what I was doing to my kids as well, and then put Sandy in a position with her trauma response to kind of add to their own suffering, with little kids. And everything that I said, like all of my tricks, all of my, and like there was nothing in my bag of tricks that I could use anymore,
Yeah.
so I would lose my mind. She just wouldn't care. She would just like shrug it off, like whatever. That I would threaten suicide.
Yeah.
She's like, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So she stopped playing the game.
Yeah.
And when I no longer had someone to play, like narcissism is not a game you can play alone.
No.
Like so when she stopped playing, it broke me. So we were separated for 2 years. Ironically, she wanted to get back together, but I was still like on the fence with everything. I started to understand that I had a serious problem because I started, I would wake up about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd start drinking just to ease all the anxiety I was having and stuff like that. And there was even one time I worked in a prison, and there was a bottle of vodka found in this place that no inmates can get to. It was specifically a place for officers. It was like this little control center. That was like a one-person post. And when it was announced that they had found a bottle of vodka, like everybody on my shift turned around and looked at me and started laughing. And I was like, it's not mine. Like I bring mine home with me. What are you talking about? But she decided she's done playing the game, and then when I walked into that life that I thought I wanted and realized that I was completely lost, that none of my problems went away, that they all came with me. They just shifted,
Yeah.
So I started dating the girl that I was having an affair with and all that. And I started treating her the same way.
Yeah.
And I realized like, I love Sandy. Like what did I do? So I went ahead with a divorce. She was thinking about getting back together. I went ahead with a divorce. So we were separated for 2 years, divorced for one. And then both at the same time, I don't know how, but I realized that, well, I know for me, I realized that my problems were my fault, were had to be dealt with by me. There was nobody else out there. I mean, even therapy like can guide you, but you have to do the work.
Yes.
I just heard this great video on the biomedical model of mental health and how it's failing. Because if I have some type of virus, you go in, you do a blood test or something, or whatever it is, or I come in with these symptoms, they do a blood test, they find out like I'm diabetic. So they're like, okay, something's wrong with your pancreas. We know what to do. We're going to give you some insulin. And they use that same way with mental health. So I come in with a series of symptoms, and they're like, okay, we believe we know what this is, and we believe we know it can help, but like nothing, like you still have to do the work. It's not like getting a bone set in your leg, like where you need a doctor to do that for you. And when we got back together, like there was that point where we both stopped blaming each other for what was wrong in our own lives. And we both took responsibility. And I remember I was sitting at our kitchen table, and we were talking and about this, and she had brought, and I'm like, wait, you're not blaming me? Like, why the hell are you not blaming me? Like, I am the cause of all your problems. And she's like, no, it's like you could be a problem like in my life, but the way that she was saying, like the way that she reacted to it wasn't the correct way. She was talking about like the spin that she was in. So she said, I'm taking responsibility for my own life from here on out, and I was saying the same thing for myself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we just started kind of growing closer together, and yeah, 3 years later we got remarried, and this year we'll be together for 30 years, and even I'll always remember this. I was walking by, she was getting ready for the day, and I was walking by the bathroom, and she was brushing her teeth, and I caught her reflection in the mirror, and I just saw her eyes, and I didn't see like the Sandy that I've been with for 30 years. I saw the Sandy that I met when we were 18. And I was like, that's the key right there. Like seeing her inner child instead of trying to protect my own, pushing my focus outward. And I fell in love with her so hard in that moment. Again, it was like one of the most incredible moments of my life, like that little flash. But again, when we're in that survival mode, we're going to miss all those miracle moments that happen in our lives because we're not looking for them. We're looking to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to
deeper stuff.
I just want to take a breath and like a great depth of gratitude for you, Keith, for sharing your experience, brother. Because that I felt that throughout my body, throughout your whole expression. And, in those moments we were expressing like Sandy's experience, like I could see myself in those moments, especially like when, she sat down and she said, you got to take me to hospital, I'm going crazy. It's very common, like in this experience for the ones on the other side, is like they think they're going crazy.
Yeah.
They start to lose their memory. Like I know my experience happened from childhood, and then it went on to attracting a partner that didn't have my best interests at heart. And yeah, I know from that experience that it's so debilitating and so shocking. You don't understand what's going on, but everything you express there, and just from your perspective, I could feel a deep sense of healing like throughout that expression. So like, and I had no idea what was going to come up today. Like we were having a conversation. We're both in Evan Britton's men's group call, and we're catching up every week. And then we're on TikTok having a chat. Like that was the intention. Like, oh, you've experienced it. Okay, let's talk about it on, on camera. Let's go there. And I think that's beautiful because like that experience just to open up and express what you're going through, it can be so healing and beneficial for other people listening to that. And I think a lot of people are going to take a lot of, a lot of depth and gratitude out of this conversation. I can feel that already. Yeah. It's going to impact a lot of people. And that's even just witnessing from the very expression at the start, like saying you're nervous, this is what you're feeling, and then just expressing and, like not having any attachment to how it's going to come out. But I just want to honor the fact of your journey, Keith, your expression, and also like that you're on the other side and you're taking ownership of your own experience. You are in control of the I am, which is, that's what we are. We are the consciousness in which these thoughts arise. And if we can start to bring a bit of perspective of this experience from childhood, and we can start to integrate a healing aspect. Because like you said as well, like the therapy is one part of it, but it comes down to you. It comes down to how much work you're going to do about it, because I know Sarah's went through 6 years of therapy, and it wasn't until she actually started to really do the inner work, frequency work, and start to focus on herself that things
actually
can shift.
see a result and changes.
Yeah.
Because you can go to therapy, talk about it, but then you go home and you keep doing the same thing. It's nothing. It's just 1 hour when you're talking about your problems, and then you go home, but you don't integrate, and you actually taking different action. Because, for example, even right now, Mark and I have been in abusive relationship, both of us, since childhood, and we have different wound. So Mark has the masculine wound. I have the feminine wound. So we both have to actually heal that in order to have a relationship that is not based on survival. And we trigger each other wounds, and we both go in survival. Exactly like they describe it. I start to think about myself only, and he starts to think about himself only. And that there is no connection between us, because he's in survival, I am in survival, I'm surviving my past, and his past triggering my past, because it's the same chaos, it's the same dynamic. And then I go in survival, and the only thing that I can think of, I need to protect myself. I need to be safe. That's it. I don't care about you. I need to be safe. But the moment that we changing and we taking now different action, that's when we start to meet halfway. And that's when things start to change. And it's the same when you healing, like you expressed this very beautifully with your wife, that, you guys started to met halfway, because you were doing the work and she was doing the work, and then boom, you reconnected. And that is so important. I feel.
And I love how to see that that's possible, because a lot of the framing in society is like, exactly what you said, Keith, like once a narcissist, always a narcissist. And I think it's really beautiful to shine a light on, hey, what's possible if you are willing to do the work and take ownership of your own experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Especially when, like in a relationship, is different. Sometimes you can leave a partner and move on, and that's it. But when narcissism can be your kid, we have a lot of conversation with a lot of people that say, my son is a narcissist, or my parent, for example, for me, is my mom. My first abuser was my mom. So my mom has been the narcissist in my life, which is difficult because it's a very role model and key figure in my life. So I feel like this is something beautiful to see for people that are going through not like just a friendship, work, and relationship, but also people that are going through like parents or kids.
Yeah.
Which is tough, because imagine if you have your kid that start to do those things and act in that way, that's difficult. So that can be helpful to people that are going through that.
Yeah, maybe that's something we can ask you as well, Keith. Like, how have you seen, like, in terms of your kids, like the impact of you first and foremost, like before, like the healing, and then afterwards? How have you noticed that shape the impact of your relationship with your kids?
So I was, if you guys can see my hands, I'm like wringing. I just had rotator cuff surgery like 3 months ago, and I'm wringing my hands so much out of nervousness. My shoulders like aching and stuff. But I absolutely, I'm so fired up, like talking about this. Being able to on this side. If anybody that listens to this is dealing with this, the freedom of letting go of the self that you find is a miracle. When I was in Bosnia, I wrote my wife was pregnant with my oldest daughter, and I wrote her a letter every day. Just in case the worst happened and I didn't make it home. I wanted her to have an idea of who her dad was. And when she turned 21, my wife took all those letters and put them like in a book and gave it to her. I did not know about this. And the reason why I don't know about it is because my daughter read began to read those letters. She got about halfway through, and she just slammed the book shut, put it away, and said, I don't know who this is. This is not a person I know. Because it was me from prior to, I think the thing that sort of elevated my trauma, and then also elevated my need to only see myself and that selfishness and that narcissism. After I did the work, which was interesting because when my wife and I got remarried, like things were good for about 4 or 5 years, which from what I understand is about the average. When someone gets divorced and they get remarried, on average, it's about 5 years that they last again before things kind of split up, because I was controlling it by willpower at that point. But the thing about the mind, the most amazing thing about the mind is so much more powerful than the biological brain and body will ever be. I used to see that as a curse, because like, what's that saying? A leopard can't change his spots, but luckily we're not leopards. So, and I don't have spots. So I don't need to worry about changing those. I just need to worry about being a better human being,
Yeah.
And when my daughter was 27, after I started doing this work, she reread those letters. And sorry, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
No,
She
nothing
said,
to apologize.
she told my wife, she said, I see my dad.
Wow.
And both me and both of my daughters are so close now. My youngest, she has a lot, deals with a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, things like that. And I blame myself so much for that, but me and her can talk and joke and laugh and, pick on each other a little bit. And we can have so much fun together. And then me and my oldest daughter, we're just as close, but like in a different way. We have like deeper conversations, and just enjoy each other. And then, she's always like, I always wanted sarcastic kids. I don't know why. Like, I mean, I grew up on the Three Stooges, so I was like, sarcasm is the way to go in life, man. It just gets you everything you need. And just the other day, like, she knows how to push my buttons. So I was like, she was over, because her and my wife work in different offices, but the same state building. And she had dropped my wife off and came in, said hi and stuff. And then as she was leaving, I remember I was like, oh wait, Car, I want to tell you a joke. And I was like, do you want to hear a joke? And then she goes, nope. And she just like kept going. She never stopped. And she thought it was the funniest thing. My wife was cracking up. And later on, I talked to her, and we were just like laughing about it. I was like, I was waiting for you to turn back. She goes, I know you were, and that's why I kept going. Because she kind of like needle a little bit. So yeah, the difference is astounding, because I don't demand their love anymore. I don't demand their respect. I've worked on being somebody that's lovable, a father that's lovable, and being a father that's respectable. And then it naturally came, so one of my biggest triggers was driving.
Okay.
Like I remember one time, like I almost shut down the highway. There was somebody that was in the I don't know if it's the same way in Australia, but in the States, like you have the left lane is the fast lane on the highway. So the middle lane is the
for us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but for some reason nowadays, like you have the slowest people driving the left lane. Like they're doing like 40, and it drives me. Used to drive me crazy, And both of my kids now, it's funny. They're like, yeah, we'd rather drive with you than with mom. Mom gets really angry, Like, she'll be at a red light and it turns green. If it doesn't go, she like Sandy's like, what are you waiting for? I mean, she doesn't like lose her temper or anything like that. I don't want to make it sound like that, but she's like, come on, what are you waiting for? Let's go. We got places to be, stuff like that. And for me, like, I'll sit through an entire green light until it turns red again. If the person in front of me is like not, 'cause I just don't care anymore. You know what I mean? With the problems that I actually have, you know, and the problems in the world, if somebody doesn't go right away at a red light or something like that, or somebody accidentally like cuts, or even on purpose cuts me off, that's your energy. I don't need to adopt your energy and make it my own. You know, I found that my anger is sacred to me, and I'm not going to give it to just anybody. You know, I'm only going to give it to those who deserve it. You know, and again, in the right way. You know, I mean, because I think there's a difference between being assertive and then being an ass. You know, sometimes you need to be that ass. You know, most times just a little bit of assertiveness goes a long way. So yeah, everything changed. Like I don't know what it would be like. I think I would basically just be alone right now. You know, 50 years old. If I never changed, if I never did the work, Sandy would probably be happily married to somebody else. My kids would be married to their husbands, living their life, not really having much to do with me, and I would just be alone.
Yeah. Which, Kate, like, I don't know if you can confirm that, but which is something that I know through my study, which is one of the biggest fear the narcissists have is being alone. But they're doing everything to create that with their behavior, like not blaming themselves for anything, but actually blaming everybody else. It's everybody else's fault. I am the victim, which is, I think, the biggest fear, if my study or research are right, is that one. It's actually remain alone. That's the biggest fear. That's what they try to control, to avoid, because they don't feel lovable. That's the wound. I don't feel lovable at all. I don't deserve love. And they actually created, because they created in childhood that survival mechanism, and they pushing everybody away, and they actually do the opposite of what they actually want, because that's not what they want. They actually don't want to be alone. Right. Is that correct?
I would say it's 100% correct. You know, I still struggle with feelings of worthlessness. You know, that I'm not good enough to be loved. You know, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to control that situation. You know, love is not something that you can control. It's you know, it's like I found a lot of relief in, if it's okay to talk about like this, but I found a lot of relief with plant medicine.
Absolutely.
And I remember thank you. When I started to experiment with psilocybin, because my doctor wanted me to try it, which was my doctor's. I'm like, my primary care doctor is telling me to try psilocybin. Like, I mean, she wanted me to get on a study through the VA, not just like go see some guy in the
go see Jarrett.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I went back to the VA, because I had stopped. I had gotten off all the medications they had me on. I had stopped all therapy. So I had done this myself. I decided if they can't help me, I'm gonna find my own way out of this. And I was in school at the time studying anthropology, and I decided to study my own mind as if it's its own culture. You know, to learn its beliefs, its traditions, its the reasons why I do the things that I do, like seeing the mind as a culture in and unto itself. And that like changed everything, because that gave me space between my pain, which brought me into survival, and then and my consciousness. And that's when I found, like you were saying, Mark, like I'm not the thoughts that I'm having. You know, like there is that guy that's trapped in that prison in the back of my head, but I'm also the one that built that prison, you know, and it's all because of like, I need to be loved. So I'm trying to control it. I'm trying to force it. And it's like trying to like hold water in your hand. The more you squeeze, the more places it's going to come out from. So you're going to end up losing it all.
Exactly right.
And for most, for a lot of, I don't want to say most people, for a lot of people I see that deal with narcissism, that makes them double down, because it proves to them I am unlovable. Correct. So now I have to grip stronger. And then there's more proof I am unlovable. So now I have to grip stronger. And then again, the pain versus pleasure principle, I'm always the victim. I'm always the one that's being wrong is being done to me.
Yeah.
So it can it's sort of a self-feeding monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. You express it beautifully, because like in my own experience with the people that had, abused me in my life, which has been multiple of them, because was my energy field when I grew up. My mom was a narcissist, so I had to face that straight away. So I grew up in survival, basically, straight away.
Yeah.
And then another abusive relationship, and then I attracted the later one in my adult life, and then I changed it myself. I did the work, and I stopped to attract them in my life, right? And that's the work that also the person that had been going through the abuse has to do, because they both have to do the work. And, I'm not justify anything, but at the same time, you are the one that's responsible for yourself. Because when you were a kid, and you were trying to survive, and you created those coping mechanisms to survive. But now that you are an adult, you are not a kid anymore. And now you can change it. You can say, this is what I do when I'm surviving, and I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to change that. And something that I noticed in my own relationship, especially with my mother, she created that. She really create all of those situations where she is unlovable. And when I don't talk to her, or when I push her away, or because I'm not talking to her right now because of all the things that she did to me when I was a child. And she created those situations. And that's when, sometimes I get angry, and then I stop it to get angry because I can't communicate with her. There is no conversation. It's always my fault. She's never doing anything wrong, because of course she's chooses to don't do the work, and I stop to try to save her or help her. But this is what I notice in every dynamic. She creates those dynamics. It always begins from her. It's never actually me doing anything. She actually do that to herself. And I noticed that multiple times with different people in my life. So I love the perspective that you brought it up, because it is exactly what it's happening. And that can help so much. Something that helped me a lot is knowing that when she sent me texts with control, manipulation, gaslighting, blaming me, and all the things, I know that is just a projection of the things that she does. And that helped me to see it and say, okay, I haven't done nothing wrong here. She's projecting her own fear, and she tried to control me in this moment, because that's the only thing that she can do in this moment. And that helped me so much to see the dynamic of it. And
what that does is create space. From the response, like the signal to the response. I think that's the biggest thing, Keith, that you share about. We can go deep into like your path now, because I know you're coaching as well. I know you do a lot of mindset stuff. When it comes up, like if you're on either end, like say for us, we went through that people pleasing phase, and attracting narcissistic people. For us, it's like now reclaiming ourselves, exactly like for Sandy as well, what she went through when she first separated, of like not playing the game anymore.
Not play the game anymore.
And that's how you can stop fueling it. And it's a process, because at first there is a trauma bond. There's an energy inside of us, like we don't feel safe, not responding. And we're like, all of a sudden opening an email, like, what are we doing here? And that's sending me into derailing. But if you can, the more work you do on yourself, the more space you can give yourself between the signal and the response. And that is a great way for you to come back into your body, because I know that helped me as well, like was breath work, was also an open heart meditation, because me on the other side was like the narcissist feels unlovable, and then the people pleaser feels unworthy of love. And so for me, like that's what I felt. And it's two different sides of the same thing.
Yeah, because I picked up that when you were talking about your mom, Sarah, you said I had to stop trying to save her.
Yeah.
So almost like you were searching for love too, right? Like that's
right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, one of the things I learned on the psilocybin, and that's why I brought it up, because that was sort of the analogy I was going to use, was when I got up to a high enough dose by myself, because I went very, very slow, because I didn't know what it was going to do. But I always learn too, is if you take anything like that, you're going to become demon possessed. And I'm like, well, I don't, that would suck. So, but when I got up, I was deep in the woods, And I remember I was seeing some spider webs in between some tree branches. And then when I looked away from the branches, I saw these webs everywhere. And I would reach out and I would try to touch them, and they would just sort of morph around my hands, almost like I saw them like as maybe from like, I don't know, a different dimension or something like that that I could not touch because it wasn't a part, it was a part of reality, but not part of
3D
this.
reality.
Yeah. And as I sort of worked on integrating that whole experience, I started to wonder like, how many emotions do we really have? And the thought I've been playing with for a couple years now is there's only one emotion, and that's love. But it's a spectrum, where you have love of somebody that, like that's I know Sandy feels for me, I feel for her. Like I'm going to give to her no matter what she brings to me. And of course, there's going to be boundaries. If the abuse is going on, you have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
But if she has a bad day at work and comes home and is snapping at me, okay, I see your pain now, not my victimhood, but I see her pain. And so now I get to love her, all the way down to, like when I worked in the prison, I remember meeting this guy. It was big in the news in Connecticut. Him and his brother, they were contractors, and they were doing work for this guy, and the guy was a gay man, and they would drink after they worked. They became friends with this guy, and I don't know if the guy had a little too much to drink or just felt more comfortable, but he started like rubbing the guy that I met, rubbing his brother's shoulders. And his brother was he was over 18, but he was like 18 or 19 or whatever. So this guy just lost it. He was drunk out of his mind, he just lost it and killed the guy,
Wow.
And even that is, it was love for his brother. It was toxic, and it was wrong, So again, like you said, yeah, and I think that message needs to like constantly be repeated. It doesn't justify the actions.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just about understanding,
Yeah.
the meaning behind it. So it doesn't justify him doing that, but it was this toxic form of love. Because I remember listening to him when I was like touring the unit. He was on the phone and he was trying to explain to his daughter, like, Daddy's never coming home. Daddy did something really bad. And I can never come home because of it. And he was trying to teach her about consequences, about cause and effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was one of the best guys I met while I was in there, And yeah, I think we're all just searching for love. And what we do though is we pass down our pain instead of our love, to our.
That's a beautiful message, because it's important to that don't justify, like just like you say, because there are certain things that we can't justify them and making excuses, but then that can help us to understand. That's why this podcast, I feel, is very, very powerful, because it helps the other people on the other side to understand. And that, for who's listening, if you have been abused, that doesn't justify what you have been going through. But what you can do through this podcast is understanding why it did happen. And then you can heal from that, because that is important for healing. Because for healing, just like you say, Kit, when you were talking about that, you were learning about the mind, like, why do I do certain things, helping you to understand it. And when you understand it, that's when you can heal. Because sometimes we don't know why we're doing certain things. Like for me, I didn't know, for example, why I was in my masculine for my entire life and taking always action and try to, to take over functioning. I didn't know until I started to understand where this is coming from. This is coming from my survival mechanism to protect myself. And from there, I started to understand, how can I change that? And then I started to take action, and I started to see a change. But without understanding why I was doing it, I could keep going, like being like in my masculine and leading, and never be my feminine for the rest of my life. So again, I haven't abused anyone, but still, it's my responsibility to do this work and to look into myself and to learn and change it after that, when I do understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I want to talk about, Keith, as you sort of bring this podcast to a close, is your journey then, like being very interested in the mind, and that led you on a path of like exploring life coaching. Do you want to sort of touch on that?
Yeah. So I was going to the VA at the time, and I was also in college. I think I went to college at 38 when I started. And that's when life started getting good. Like I was going, both me and Sandy were going to parties with kids that we would meet their parents, and their parents were our age. And then we were out back at a bonfire, drinking with their kids. I mean, they were over like 21 stuff, but they, while they're in school, they're still living at home and everything. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing in the world. Like I'm going on 40 years old, and I'm sitting here drinking with a bunch of like 21-year-olds and stuff, 22-year-olds, and their parents are my age inside, like watching old people TV, you know what I mean? Like Fortune or something, and I'm like Benjamin Buttons. I'm like living life backwards, or something. So I remember I walked into class one day, and there was this little drawing on the board, and it was just a line straight up, a line across, and then a line partially way down, right? And this was a rite of passage model, right? This was developed by this anthropologist named Victor Turner, who continued on the work of this French anthropologist named Arnold van Gennep. And there's three phases to it. There's separation, where you separate from all cultural norms.
Yeah.
Then there's this transitional phase. To me, this is the big one. So they call it being betwixt and between. It's a phase of liminality, right? Yeah. Where you're not yet what you're going to become, but you're no longer who you are. So kind of like, Sarah, what you were talking about, the phases of coming out of being abused,
Yes.
Narcissist, and having that sort of trauma bond, like that seems to be like that phase of liminality. You're not the person you're going to become yet, because you're still holding on to that past, but you're still no longer that person that you are.
Correct.
And then there's this phase of reincorporation, where you in cultures that still do have rites of passage, you incorporate back into your culture, but a higher level of responsibility.
Beautiful.
Like one of the examples they use is down in South America. I forget what the culture is called, but when a girl is becoming a woman, the women of the tribe will bring her out, separate her from the tribe. They wrap her in these leaves from I think they call it like the milk tree, because if you cut the bark, the sap is this milky white substance.
Yeah.
The women will feed her and care for her while she's wrapped up, and this goes on for like a few days, and they teach her what it means to be a woman in their culture. So when that ceremony is over, when that phase of liminality is over, and they go back into the culture, they're now it just completely left my mind what I just said. So reincorporation. So when they reincorporate back to their culture, they're now a woman in their culture. They're at a higher level of responsibility.
Yeah. It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah. 100%. And a lot of times we can get caught in this phase of liminality, and realized when I left the military, going into the military, and all the research that's out there talks about this, uses Victor Turner's model and all that. And they say, like, it's a rite of passage, it's not a job choice. It's a cultural shift that happens. You learn how to walk, you learn how to talk, you learn how to, if you're talking to an officer, if you're talking to an enlisted man, how to tell the time, how to write the date, how to wear your shoes, how to wear your cover, your hat, you learn everything, not just how to fight. Basic training teaches you how to survive in the military culture. And then as you go on, that's when, like, I was airborne infantry. So all we did was learn about fighting, and when I saw that, dealing with the therapists at the VA that were telling me to, like, rub my legs under my desk if I'm having a panic attack in class, and whisper to myself. So I'm like, all right, I'm with these 21-year-old girls that are sitting like right in front of me. I'm in the back corner. I was 300 pounds at the time. My beard was down to here. never talking, not making eye contact with people, like hyper vigilant constantly. And they want me to start rubbing my legs and whispering like, shh, I'm okay. And I'm like, that is creepy as hell, dude. Like if my daughter came home and told me there's a dude like sitting behind, old guy sitting behind her doing that, I'd be like calling the cops. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know, now I do believe everything can work for people. So where that does work for people. I just didn't connect with that. So I started studying this rite of passage model and started creating what I call it a walk down, so it's almost like going into a parking garage. You separate from the street. There's no spots on the first floor, so you go up at the ramp, you're transitioning that liminality, and let's say you go all the way up to the 10th floor, and there's a big exit sign, and then you drive through it and there's no ramp and you just plummet straight down to the road below. And that's what getting out of the military to me is like. So there's no period where there's this identity change. So you had brought that up, like that change in identity, where I'm no longer a soldier, I'm now a civilian. So I still live in this place where I have the military mindset, but I'm in the civilian world. So I'm looking around and I recognize everything. I understand culture, my surroundings, but I feel lost. And there were times like I'd be surrounded by it. Like, I mean, me, Sandy, and my girls watching some TV at night before bed or whatever, just relaxing. And I would feel so lonely that I would then go and isolate myself, go in my room, close my door, all the lights are off, and I would just lay in bed completely tensed up, just shaking.
Wow.
Because even though I knew where I was and I was surrounded by people that loved me, I felt nothing. Because I'm stuck in this place, almost like I don't know if you've ever seen a show like where someone's like in a coma or something and they have like an out of body experience and they can't get back in their body, but they can't move on. And that's what it felt like. And that was the most fear I've ever felt in my life, and Victor Turner in his book, not Victor Turner, Man's Search for Meaning. I'm going to forget.
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl. Thank you.
Yeah.
He said, when we can put a meaning to our suffering ceases to exist. So I was like, wait a second, all I got to do is find the meaning. And then I'm starting to learn stuff like we get to make up our own meaning. There isn't like a meaning out there that we're waiting for Amazon to drop off at our front door. Like I can create the meaning for me.
Yes.
So for me, all of this, my entire life has come down to this is the meaning for everything that I've done, everything that has been done to me and everything that I have done to Sandy, to my girls, so that I can have conversations like this with people that have been abused, people that are the abuser and are starting to kind of wake up to that and say, listen, like there is so much freedom. There is so much beauty. There is so much life on the other side. I know I'm rambling because I'm getting excited. Is this okay?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. I heard this thing. I'm going to finally answer your question at some point tonight or in your day. But I heard this thing like, always look for paradox, because at a point of a paradox is where you find a deep truth, and if you look at a black hole, right? A black hole, everything gets sucked into it and it ends in a singularity. And there's this theoretical object that I've never heard about until like a couple of years ago called a white hole. And a white hole starts at a singularity and nothing can enter it, but all life comes out. So when they talk about like, if like the universe, happening at the Big Bang, they believe that, or one of the theories is that it was a white hole that exploded and everything, all matter that created life came out of that.
Wow.
But what we do most of our life is we try to claw our way out of this black hole that we can't get out of. It's impossible. What we have to do is turn and face our fear, move through that point of singularity, and that's when we find life. So I wrote my thesis and my professor was like, there's something missing. And I'm like, all right, what are you talking about? I'm a genius, apparently. You know, there's a little sprinkle a little narcissism in there. You know, but she said, you've told me all of the reasons, and you provided all the evidence of why you believe what you believe. However, you have not given me any evidence or anything that you don't agree with and why you don't. You know, and she said in your thesis, you have to kind of like call out what you don't agree with and give the reason why. And for me, life coaching was one of the things I don't agree with. I thought they were people that said nice fancy cliches like where energy go or where focus goes, energy flows. Now give me $5,000, you know? And then like that very thing, like that very little cliche, like I found, I saw this, I heard the science behind it. You know, like what I focus on creates an electrical signal to brain cells that then release a chemical response that drives an action or an emotion, which drives an action in my body. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There is something behind this. So there was one life coach that I hated the most. Might have heard of him. I heard he's pretty big in Australia, but Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Biggest fool I've ever met in my life, you know, or I've ever heard of in my life, you know, just taking everybody's money and giving out stupid little cliches. So I was like, all right, I'm going to prove this idiot wrong, you know, because remember, I'm a genius, you know, so I buy his first book, I read it, and there's this visualization practice on how to shut off an anxiety attack.
Okay.
And I remember me and my wife were driving, and she was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and I started having an anxiety attack. And I went through the visualization. I just closed my eyes, I envisioned the word, and for me, I let my mind paint a picture. Like I said, I love them. The mind there's a universe in our heads, in all of our heads. It's incredible. And I let my mind paint a picture, and it was like a horror movie, just the word anxiety, you know, black background, red letters, kind of drippy, you know. And I put it on the other side of the Grand Canyon, but it was so big, it was right there. You know, it was almost like a billboard. It was just right there. It was sharp, it was vibrant, you know, the colors popped. And then I just pushed it further away, further away, further away. And then I made everything look a little bit blurry. And this is all just happening in my mind. Because if I tell like saying this, I'm like, man, this sounds stupid, you know, but it works so amazing. And then I let myself hear a pop, and it was gone. The billboard was gone.
Wow.
And within 30 seconds, my anxiety attack was over. And I was like, what the hell was that? Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. Like maybe I'm looking at what other people have to say. And so I kept reading the book, and kept watching videos and doing more things. And I saw healing happen. And I began to see things in myself like, wow, this is just me trying to meet a need. This is me trying to love myself. And again, like you said, like to make sure there's no question, this does not justify my actions. But I was trying to love myself, but I was loving myself in a toxic way.
Yeah.
And when I gave up that need to force other people to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself, which was love myself, because I hated myself.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I faced the singularity, went through, and life opened up. And so I love this story, but my wife like still is a little mad at me. So she came home from work one day, and I was like, hey, I just spent $3,500 on the credit card and bought Tony Robbins' life coaching course. And she was like, what? Like, you didn't even talk to me? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'll take whatever punishment you want to level out at me, you know, burn my debt, whatever you want to do is great. Like, and I had no intention of starting, you know, coaching. You know, I just wanted to continue to learn for myself so I can be a better husband, a better person all around, you know. And then as I went through, I'm like, people need to know this stuff. Like, why don't we know this stuff? Why isn't this taught and passed down? But like, you know, like we were talking about earlier, it's much easier to pass down pain because we want to push that away.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we do that even to our kids. Like my youngest daughter, I always tell her, like, I am the cause of a lot of the anxiety that you have. I did that. Unfortunately, I can't fix that. And that's the thing that sucks about, parent-child relationships. A parent can do a lot of harm or a lot of good, but when it's a lot of harm, it's up to the child, like you were saying, sir. It's the child's responsibility to take that and to alchemize that into something that you like. I mean, you guys as a couple, like I've always just seen Mark on Wednesday nights, and now like seeing you and just how you go together. Like you guys are like you fit perfectly. Like you guys are amazing.
Thank
you.
Yeah, so that's how I got into coaching because my teacher, my professor.
Keith, I hope you have this story somewhere in your marketing because it's beautiful branding story. Like if you haven't shared it enough, I don't know, just write an email and send it to all your emailing list. This is how I started all of these, or I don't know what you do with your marketing and things, but
send them to this podcast.
This is very powerful story, and I think like it makes you stand out and also be different from so many other coaches that does maybe what you do, but you do it in a different way for a different reason. And it's a beautiful, powerful storytelling. So if you haven't shared this enough, I mean, you did it today.
That's Sarah's business and marketing coach coming out. She can see it.
But
wait, are you serious? You're a business and marketing coach?
I used to be before I started this new business with Mark Reclaim. I used to be a business and marketing coach for 6 years. So I did that for 6 years. Then I remembered about my abuse, and that's when a new path for me opened it up. And I say, I can't just teach marketing and business now anymore. Like I can't do that anymore because I'm not that person anymore. Now I'm evolving into this new version of me. And that's when I met Mark, and that's how we started Reclaim together with our business. But I used to be a marketing and business coach before this, and it's a powerful story. So if you haven't shared this enough, if you feel ready, go for it because it's powerful, and
that's what sets you apart.
It sets you apart, and also gives to people like who you are. Like this is what I believe, this is who I am, and this is what I went through, and that's why I'm here now teaching you this. And that's why I'm here now calling you into my world. And that's powerful because especially now with AI coming in, we have to bring a lot of humanities in what we do, like make our content, our marketing sounds like it's me, behind the screen. It's not an artificial intelligence doing everything. And, that sets you apart.
I've got an idea as well. I don't know if it's in your wheelhouse, Keith, but what's coming to me as well, like, for us, we got into this space and now it's like a real niche. Like it's like a micro niche. Like imagine if you would ever feel pulled to, you could help people like who are narcissists get out of their narcissistic tendencies if they're, if they're willing to do that. If that's something that resonates for you, I just felt like that in the moment. Like how powerful that be? Because how many people are out there like I haven't seen that actually do that?
We haven't seen because we haven't paid attention, but also it's not our experience in our life.
Yeah.
We don't have anyone like Kit.
Yeah.
And again, it's not our job.
Yeah.
So, as someone that has been abused, it's not your job to fix them or help them. They have to be willing to do the work. But I'm sure there are many people like Kit.
Yeah.
That they have been going through this phase of healing themselves, and there are so many like Keith that want to do the work. I'm sure that they are, especially in the society we live today with a lot of information, with a lot of more awareness compared to my mom generation.
Absolutely.
People are more willing to, they see like Keith, they see content about people being abused. And if I was the narcissist in the equation, I will fucking do the work. And I will say, I don't want to do that anymore. Like I want to change. I want to do something about it. So there are empowered people that do that. Exactly, I believe in that. Like, and that can be very powerful for you. But Kit, to wrap up the podcast, and otherwise the three of us are gonna talk forever.
We'll talk. We'll end up talking until tonight when we're on with Evan.
We're gonna talk forever, and I'm aware of that. So if someone wants to find you, how they can, they listen to this podcast and they say, I want to connect with Keith. I want to know what he's doing. I want to know more about his work, how they can find you. And then, of course, we're going to add below the episode all your links or website, whatever you do have, like how they can find you, Keith.
So I have a website. When I first started this, I started 4 years ago, and I realized like I have, number one, no idea what I'm doing. And then number two, there was a lot more healing that needed to happen because I didn't know how to be authentic. I couldn't be this open. I would put on a character and, try to say the right things and things like, instead of being vulnerable, and not being afraid of that. So I have a website, but I kind of feel like it's almost like macaroni art. It's there, but it needs a little work. But it's breakpoint coaching, all one word, .org. My email's on there, and then all of my social media is at Master Cheese. And cheese is CHEESEEE, because somebody had like Master Cheese. Like, I'm like, nobody's gonna have that name,
I love that.
That's from my niece was her mom. She was calling me. She was like, Keith, and her mom was like, why are you calling him Cheese? So now that everybody in my family called me Cheese. And then when she was like at kindergarten, she was doing a report on her family and like, what's so special about your grandmother? Like, what makes your grandmother special? What is your father special? Your uncle? And so she had these like 2-liter soda bottles when she was like 5 or 6, and she was trying to like hit me with them, and I was just blocking them away. And I convinced her that I was a karate master. So, even though like I'm the furthest thing from it, so now it's all Master Cheese. And I'm like, when I first started, it was like a symbol and breakpoint coaching, because I didn't want to put my face out there. Then it was me in this really nice sweater and stuff. And like, and I'm like, that's not me either. Like, I hate personal.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that.
Let's just chill out and be real. And, so I'm like, I'm going with Master Cheese,
Love it.
Anywhere like at Master Cheese on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, website. And I got my email on there, my number. So yeah, I mean, anytime I will always, and I'm not, my goal in my life at this point is to just be a light. Like a lot of times in coaching, like people say like, I just want to help people.
Yeah.
And this might sound bad, but I don't align with that. Like, I don't have this overwhelming drive to help people.
Yeah.
I just have this overwhelming need to be a light, to be the best version of myself as I can be.
Yeah.
And so when people get help from that, that's like, I get jazzed up. I mean, one of the first clients I worked with, she wanted to be a pilot, and I just found out she's about to get her license, her pilot's license.
How beautiful.
And I had just gotten out of the sling. When you have rotator cuff surgery, you can't move your arm for like 6 weeks. I just got out, and I was like, and I was like, oh, it hurt so bad. But that's what lights me up, because that adds life to me, and it's not like I'm adding life because I'm controlling that. It's just coming into my sphere, and that's what I'm all about. So I'm not like the type of person that's going to be like, what, it's if you want to be happy in life, if you want to learn how to heal, you got to give me $5,000. Like, I don't give a shit if you give me a penny. I'm just going to shine. And that's something I've struggled with for a long time, and I've finally made peace with it, especially veterans. Because there's that saying, never leave a man behind. And I don't believe that should end when our military contract ends.
Yeah.
So any veteran that wants to work with me will never be charged a penny, because they're my brothers, they're my sisters. And I'm lucky enough where I'm in a position where I can do that.
Yeah.
I have money coming in from other sources that allow me to do that. And a lot of people, unfortunately, that do also want to do stuff like that, aren't in that position.
Yeah.
So.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I feel like it's a full circle moment of like what you experience, Keith, and then coming full circle, like, and then shining your light onto the world. I think that's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So
thank you so much.
We say thank you to you to be here in this podcast. Thank you for who is listening. Thank you for your vulnerability and to be very open to share like the real story, which is not easy to do it. And that's incredible. And thank you for doing that. And thank you for our listener. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. And reach out if anyone got anything from this podcast, feel free to reach out to Keith or ourselves. We appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.